U.S. intelligence agency mind control.
Someone stupid. I know someone stupid is going to try to claim this video because they clipped it and then fucking put copyright on their video that took it from the original broadcast.
Or Castro to be a future president.
Okay, this is kind of cut off. The question is, so he's speaking to a mixed audience. It's in New York, so there's a lot of Jewish people in the audience, and this is 1990. It's the height of some things that are going on in Israel Palestine. So they're asking him, it's like, oh, you claim to love human rights, yet you like Arafat, Castro, and Gaddafi, right? So they're like, how do you, if you're so human rights, why do you like these people? Is basically what he's asking him.
President of South Africa.
Yeah, and he says, would you want one of these people like Gaddafi to be president of your country, basically? And the guy is like some conservative, like institute thing.
One of the mistakes which some political analysts make is to think that their enemies should be our enemies. That we can and we will never do. We have our own struggle, which we are conducting. We are grateful to the world for supporting our struggle. But nevertheless, we are an independent organization with its own policy. And the attitude of every country towards our attitude towards any
This
country.
is why, like, sometimes I'll jokingly say that when it comes to my politics, I'm Nelson Mandela, but better. Like, because I'm joking, but there's things like this type of thing where Nelson Mandela is trying to make people aware that the U.S. does not, in fact, run the world. We're our own country with our own policies. We can make our own decisions. We're a big boy country now. We don't need you, Daddy.
Country is determined by the attitude of that country to our struggle. Yasser Arafat, Colonel Gaddafi,
Has Alexei Navalny said some shit like that? Because that would make this even funnier. But there's like the only reason I joke about it is because there's so many things that Nelson Mandela has said that like I truly identify with. And then there's some other things that I don't, and that's why I joke about but I'm better, because it's like I critique the policies that he has that I didn't like, It's just like, I'm being an asshole. I obviously don't think that.
Castro.
But I still think, like, politically wise, as far as like if you would say what state leader are you the most like in favor of as far as like their opinions and policy, Nelson Mandela is up there for sure.
Support our struggle to the hilt. There is no reason whatsoever why we should have any hesitation about hailing their commitment to human rights as they are being demanded in South Africa.
And to give some context, he had just rekindled his relationship with Gaddafi. So him and Gaddafi had a falling out for a while. And like Gaddafi was actually like a really good friend of Mandela. And if there was one thing Gaddafi did right, it was like always supporting the underdog, which wasn't always the good side, but somebody needs to support the underdogs.
Africa. Our attitude is based solely on the fact that they fully support the anti-apartheid struggle. They do not support it only in rhetoric. They are placing resources at our disposal for us to win the struggle. That is the position.
Having said that, I think I would be
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like, you know, he also supported Black September. I definitely do not fucking like support the fucking Olympic Munich massacre, you know. I don't support Gaddafi in general, but in his backing of a lot of these little guys, he did do some good things. You know, more than like other countries have done. You know, like you look at Iran. I don't know if it would take me a while to comb through and be like, oh, here's something good Iran did. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. On the other hand, with Gaddafi, I can tell you things off the top of my head, like giving all the Semtex to the IRA. He actually gave them missiles. The IRA actually had missiles that they could have used against the British government, and they never did. Supposedly even gave them chemical weapons. Black September supporters were original red triangles. Yeah. I mean, there's also like there's certain things like the one Palestinian hijacker, the girl who's an Assadist. I still have a soft place for her because of the things she said in the past about like women in the struggle. I really that's my main problem with the current Palestinian struggle is that it's like women aren't allowed to participate. It's just like, why not? Even though there was like in the second Intifada, there was, I believe, it had to have been after it, but there's a famous picture of a lady holding a Quran and a rifle, and she suicide bombed an Israeli checkpoint, and that was kind of a famous event.
honest if I did not express profound disappointment with the answer that Mr. Mandela gave to the previous question, because it suggests a certain degree of amorality. It suggests that what these people do in their own countries, what a Gaddafi does in Libya, what a Castro does.
What do you mean? You mean give all the power to the people and not serve as a dictator?
Does in Cuba is totally irrelevant, even in terms of the issue of human rights, as long as they support the cause of the ANC. I hope that is not what Mr. Mandela meant, and I would hope that he would clarify that issue further.
Mr. Mandela.
And at the same time, want me to be involved.
Think about how dumb this take actually is. Like, it seems kind of logical to criticize Mandela on this from the beginning, but one look at U.S. foreign policy with Israel and Saudi Arabia, enough said. Like, to act like Nelson Mandela is lower than you because he was friends with Gaddafi, Arafat, and Castro, get the fuck out, bro. Shut the fuck up.
In the internal affairs of Libya and Cuba. I refuse.
Wow. He's like, hey, those are their own countries. I don't have say over how they run their countries.
To do that. As far as Yasser Arafat is concerned, I explained to Mr. Sidney that we identify with the PLO because just like ourselves,
I believe when he said Mr. whatever, I think he's talking about it's a diplomat, either the prime minister or the foreign diplomat in Israel at the time. Somebody who knows more can correct me.
they are fighting for the right of self-determination. I went further, however, to say that the support for Yasser Arafat in his struggle does not mean that the ANC has ever doubted the right of Israel to exist as a state legally. We have stood quite openly and firmly for the right of that state to exist within secured borders. But of course, as I said,
what he just said there, right? If you just translate that to through the US filter, he said Israel has a right to defend itself. Right? It's the same policy the US actually has. But they're going to act like, you know, at the time, this would be like so going up there. They're going to be asking, do you condemn Hamas?
to Mr. Sig,
What do you mean? Do you think they do that Palestine should be free from river to the sea? Do you believe they kill all the Jews?
in Geneva and others, that we carefully define what we mean by secure borders. We do not mean that Israel has the right to retain the territories they conquered from the Arab world, like the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights, and the West Bank. We don't agree with that. Those territories should be retained.
Turns out also US policy. They don't, you know, they say that. It's just like the Taiwan policy on paper. They believe in one China, right?
Tend to the Arab people.
Mr. Mandela,
It's funny because you can see the crowd is divided almost by race. It's almost like an O.J. Simpson thing at the time.
I also explained to Mr. Sigmund and company that in our organization, we have Jews. We have Jews. Mr. Gaddafi did not allow us to open our offices in Libya precisely because we had the courage to say we work with the Jews in our organization.
Why would you say this?
To open an office until February this year, when he had to accept us as we are. We are not prepared to be swayed by anybody. We have an independent policy which we assert no matter with whom we discuss. The Jewish leader have any doubts about our stand, I am prepared to address them and to allay their concern, because they are a very important community, both in South Africa and, of course, in the States. And I'm prepared to iron out any differences that might exist. But they must know what our stand is. Arafat is a comrade in arms, and we treat him as such. And as I have said, we have many Jews, members of the Jewish community in our struggle, and they have occupied very top positions. But that does not mean to say that the enemies of Israel are our enemies. We refuse to take that position. You can call it being political or a moral question, but for anybody who changes his principles depending on whom he is dealing, that is not a man who can lead a nation.
Oh, wow. Sounds like America. And they want to what? They don't want to just lead a nation. They want to lead the world? What? Crazy. I assume it was in the cut, but there's another part where he says, like, they do not support us just in rhetoric, you know?
Yeah, what was that?
It was there? Where he says, you know, oh, okay,
Yeah.
They give us the guns. Gaddafi gave us the Semtex.
Yeah, pretty much. All right.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?